Just waiting for it to kick in. Okay, it looks like it started. Perfect. So hello, everyone. Thank you all for being here and joining us for Kwentuhan with Cambio, talking about Filipino artistry tonight, hosted by Cambio and Co. and featuring Christine Tu, the co-founder of AMAMI today. So we're super excited for you all to be here and to have this conversation with all of you. A little bit about us, just in case you are new to Cambio & Co. and this might be the first time you're hearing about us. So Cambio & Co., we are an ethical fashion company that works with artisans in the Philippines. All of our pieces, our jewelry, our bags, our fashion accessories are all designed and handcrafted in the Philippines with the aim of creating sustainable livelihood for Filipino artisans. And while also empowering Filipinos in the diaspora to connect with our heritage and our roots in meaningful ways. So our rallying cry is really wear your heritage. This is really where our main advocacy and what we try to promote with Cambio & Co. because we feel that there's just so much power when it comes to wearing a piece of your heritage, not only a piece that's designed and handcrafted in the Philippines, but a piece that is designed by Filipino artisans, a piece where you know a bit about the history and the story and the craftsmanship and the meaning behind it as well. There's just so much power to be able to wear something and have something with you that's tangible and that celebrates our shared heritage in all of its diverse and nuanced forms. So that's really what we are all about with Cambio & Co. And just a little bit about our team and who we are as individuals. So my name is Gelaine Santiago. I am the co-founder of Cambio & Co. I'm Filipina, and I was born in Bulacan and immigrated with my family to Canada when I was very, very young, about 3 years old. And so I've been on a journey the last years to really reconnect and unpack and understand my own heritage, and Cambio has been an incredible journey for me to be able to do that. So I'm really honored to be one of your hosts for tonight, and this is my co-host, who is also my fellow co-founder and also my life partner.
Hi, everyone.
Mixing love and business.
Yes, I'm Jerome Gagnon, co-founder of Cambio & Co. In the last few years, so yeah, I am not Filipino, however, in the last 4.5 years at this point, I've been traveling with Gelaine every year to the Philippines. We visited all the way north from Luzon, all the way south to Mindanao, and I've learned a lot about the craftsmanship, the artisans. And yeah, I've been very involved in working with our partners in Philippines, and this has been a very big learning in terms of Filipino craftsmanship and something I became very passionate about. So yeah, excited to be here.
Yay. And then we also have our team member, our third team member here, Nikki, who is not on video, but she is in the chat somewhere. She's somewhere there. So Nikki is our community storyteller based in Manila, Philippines. And she's actually co-hosting one of the Kwentuhan sessions coming up that we have next week on body positivity and colorism. So she and I will be co-hosting that, and hopefully you'll be able to check it out. But that is our team. We are small, but a lot of people think we're bigger than we are, which is, I guess that's a good thing. Perfect. And so before we actually dive into tonight's topic, we do want to first say a few words about solidarity. Tonight's topic is about talking about pre-colonial traditions and how those traditions can survive, how we can, empower the people behind that craftsmanship and do it in a meaningful way. And it's really hard to talk about that without also talking about solidarity and allyship with indigenous communities, both in the Philippines, but also in the lands where we all reside. So we'd like to take a few moments just to acknowledge that the land that we are gathering on today as guests is the traditional territory of many indigenous nations, including the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Huron-Wendat peoples, and most recently the Mississaugas of the Credit River. We acknowledge that long before European settlers arrived and stole this land, which is known by its colonial name of Toronto, Ontario, Canada, this territory was the subject of the One Dish, One Spoon, Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement between the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Ojibwe and allied nations. And today this land continues to be home to many indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island, which is also colonially known as North America. So we recognize as Cambio and Co that we are settlers on this land, and that we do have a responsibility to learn and to also unlearn our roles and to work towards dismantling white supremacy and colonial forces that continue to oppress and brutalize indigenous peoples to this very day. We also, of course, cannot go without speaking in solidarity on behalf of Black lives. We stand in solidarity and join the fight for Black liberation and with the Black community. And we also stand alongside our friends, our family, our kababayan and fellow Filipinos as they also continue to fight against oppression in the Philippines as well. So thank you all for being here and standing in solidarity with us, and also allowing us to share our stories, but also the stories of the people that we work with and of the artisans whose work has meant so much to us as individuals, but also to many of you who have been part of our community for so long. So Kwentuhan with Cambio. Kwentuhan is actually a Tagalog word meaning to tell stories and to have a conversation. And this is really the word that we want to guide us in terms of tonight's event, but also as a company with Cambio & Co in general. So we've always known that we are more than just a shop. We've been in business for 4.5 years. And in the last few years, we've really learned what it means to be part of a community and the importance of really sharing our stories in meaningful ways. And so last month, we actually launched a new website with Cambio, which includes an expanded blog and a greater focus on content, community, conversation, and stories. And so Kwentuhan was really the word that we wanted to use to guide us in that expanded direction, and also in our future work with Cambio, and of course with tonight's event. And so we bought multiple events. Actually, this is part of a series. Hopefully some of you have already registered for some of our other topics that we have, but Kwentuhan is a storytelling series that is really talking about identity, culture, beauty, fashion, all in conversation with different leaders in our community and people that we really value and appreciate and respect. So hopefully you'll be able to join us. We have a session next week on self-love, and we are really honored to be hosting this event in partnership with our friends at Kape Philippine Coffee. Kwentuhan, we actually got the idea because we were like, it'd be great to have conversations over drinks. And so that is how we kind of realize how great it would be to bring in our friends at Kape. So hopefully you are all settled in with a drink right now. I've got some tea. Jerome is drinking. What do you got?
Beer. Yeah.
Jerome's got some beer. Christine's got, what do you have, Christine?
Coffee, yeah. It's very early in Philippines. Well, early enough.
Yeah, early enough. She got double cold brew or something. It's kind of fancy. Yeah, so hopefully all of you who are joining us also have a nice little drink to keep you company, I guess, as we dig into it. All right, and before I forget, we actually will have a special surprise for you on behalf of Kape coming up later in this evening, so make sure you stay tuned for that. You won't want to miss it. All right, and so getting on to tonight's topic, we are talking about artistry, which is all about Filipino artistry and why it is important to preserve craftsmanship. What do we gain by preserving Filipino craftsmanship? What do we stand to lose as well if we don't fight for its survival? And who are the artisans who have continued to practice their craft despite centuries of colonialism and outside forces? So these are some of the things that we will be diving into tonight.
So in terms of AMAMI, AMAMI is a social enterprise based in Manila that works with plateros, jewelry makers in Ilocos, in order to preserve the art of gold filigree, which is a very pre-colonial ancient technique for making jewelry that is native to the Philippines. We've been working with AMAMI for a little bit over 2 years now. We first met them in Manila in one of her last trip. And obviously, as you can see on this slide, is we were very impressed at first, obviously, with the quality and the beauty of the jewelry. But then once we've got to get to know the co-founders, we were really impressed with their social work, their social impact, and how dedicated they were to the craftsmanship and making sure that this art of gold filigree stays alive in the Philippines. And that's really what, you know, impressed us and made us want to work more with them and carry their products here in North America. And for us, when we decided to do this series, we were like, for sure, we want AMAMI as part of it. So tonight, so we will be talking with Christine Tiu, and she is the co-founder of AMAMI, and she is a strong social advocate for human rights, for entrepreneurship, for women's rights. She has been very involved. Before AMAMI, she has been with Ashoka, UNDP, Red Cross, and various other organizations. And yeah, she has a lot to talk about when it comes to preserving Filipino craftsmanship. And we're very, very happy to have her tonight. And I guess to get started, we wanted Christine to show us, give us a little presentation of her work with AMAMI. So welcome, Christine.
Hi, everyone. Good morning from Manila. Thank you so much, Gelaine and Jerome, for inviting us to share our story and to learn more about our work. And to all of you here right now for wanting to learn more about our cultural heritage. Today, I'm really excited to share with you more about our country's rich jewelry tradition that many people don't know about. So yeah, let's get started. Okay. Okay, so I guess some of you may be familiar with the kind of jewelry AMAMI already works with, but some of you may have even seen it in your lola's or your mom's closets while growing up. But for those unfamiliar, we work with jewelry similar to the necklaces, the earrings, and the hair ornaments that you see in these two photos that were popularized during the Spanish colonial period of the Philippines. Oops, hold on. Okay, so our story begins in 2017, exactly around 3 years ago and on this month. So I was on a 3-week research trip to Ilocos and I met Matt. So this is Matt. He's a bit shy and thus the side profile picture. So Matt is one of the last remaining goldsmiths in his town and in the country who still knows how to make a traditional form of jewelry called tambourines using a technique called gold filigree that dates back to a pre-Hispanic era. So his works were really masterpieces, except that he didn't know it, his kids didn't know it, and perhaps the local government didn't prioritize the craft enough. So Matt actually told us that the last sale he made was 2 years ago in 2015. And when lucky, he works as a carpenter, but on most days, he has no source of income. And when we met him, he was actually on the verge of leaving the country to look for blue collar jobs overseas like he did in the past. Yet he admittedly said that he'd rather stay in the Philippines and continue to make jewelry if he could. So, oops. Okay, hold on. Okay, yeah. So on the same trip, while I was doing rounds of research and interviews, I came across another former artisan who even told me in Tagalog that you're basically going to die if all you do is make tambourines, as if one simply couldn't make a living off of it. So you're probably wondering by now, what is tambourine? What are tambourines? What is filigree? And why did the artisan say that? And next, I just want to show you some short clips on how Filipino artisans are able to transform gold or silver nuggets, such as the photo you see on the left, into beautiful works of art. So the frames in the video change really quickly. So I advise you to take a close look.
iniipon namin.
Para mas didikit ko.
So yeah, amazing, isn't it? So one of our first thoughts was, how can a tradition so beautiful like this be on the verge of extinction? And we identified two main problems or challenges, both of which were interconnected and with several underlying factors affecting it, from underpricing, a lack of appreciation of the craft on both the side of the artisans and the general public, the increase of the prices of raw materials, the arrival of cheaper foreign machine-made and mass-produced jewelry, which really greatly affected the industry, and also career switches, especially among the younger generations of artisans, among others. So my partner Danny and I, who's also been my childhood friend since kindergarten, we decided to create AMAMI as a platform that would really create livelihood opportunities for local craftsmen here at home, so they no longer have to leave the country and leave their families behind. And through AMAMI, we really want to highlight the talent of the Filipino, not just in the Philippines, but also around the world, and hopefully be able to save this dying art form in the process. And how do we do this? Okay, so our work involves two parts. For our artisans, we provide them with support they need, from acquiring new tools and equipment, guiding them with basic accounting, ensuring they get fair wages, and also, most importantly, a steady source of income. And on the other end, we invest a lot of our time in raising awareness and educating the general public about the craft. We've also revamped traditional designs to keep up with the times and encourage younger Filipinos to wear our local jewelry. So here, just some photos to illustrate our work. On the left is a photo of us helping some of our artisans improve their financials. And on the right is a photo of our very first pop-up in February 2018, just 2 months after we launched AMAMI. And I admit it wasn't our best setup, and we probably sold maybe 3 pairs in 2 days. But anyway, we learned our lesson and have moved on despite that. And here's some oops, sorry. Yeah, so this is just some of our updates since we started AMAMI. We were able to continuously produce jewelry for 2 years now and grow from 1 artisan, Matt, to 18 artisans who have started to learn the ropes of the craft. And this has been an important source of livelihood for our craftsmen, some of whom are now able to pay for their tuition fees of their children for the first time on their own. For the craft, we try as much as we can to really get the word out and raise awareness and appreciation for it, because how can we save something? I mean, how can you save a tradition that we don't know about? And so crucial in our work are all our advocates, Filipinos, non-Filipinos, and those who really care and believe in our mission and have in turn become our storytellers too. And I guess one of our favorite moments has to be when we found out Matt was finally able to finish the construction of his roof. And this has been Matt's dream house for the longest time, but it was put on hold for the past 7 years due to a lack of funds. And having this roof and his windows installed meant that his family no longer had to risk getting electrocuted every time it would rain during the rainy season. Matt has also not pursued his initial plans of leaving the country, so we'll take that as a good sign. And as months passed, we observed a greater sense of confidence and pride among our artisans. Family bonds were strengthened. Their children were starting to help out as well, as seen on the 2 screenshots on the left. And I guess in line with recent global events, I think now more than ever, we really need to learn more about and ultimately celebrate our own heritage. Because personally, for me, I think that Filipino craftsmanship is an excellent way of debunking popular myths and distorted images of our ancestors that were propagated by colonial powers and still manifest in various ways even up until today. So yeah, I think that Filipinos are great people, and we have always been. We were not uncivilized and primitive. We had our own beliefs, our own culture, ideas, value systems, and one evidence of this is in our centuries old crafts and traditions. And it's really about time that we reclaim this narrative as our own. And here's a quote by a Filipino author who goes by the name Bob Ong to remind us to really continue to dig deeper into getting to know ourselves and our roots better. Because he says that if we don't know who we are, how will we become proud of ourselves? And I think this applies to both a personal and a cultural level as well. So yeah, that's all for me.
Yay.
Wow.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Christine. That was awesome. Yeah, I love, we've obviously been able to get to know AMAMI really, really well over the last 2 years since AMAMI and Cambio have been working together, but it's still, like, there's still so much power to hear this presentation and hear the stories of Matt, you know, the artisans, and I think it's really meaningful. And one thing actually that is quite interesting while I was listening to your presentation, and that the point that you had about the pre-Hispanic traditions that we had, you know, and how we had these beliefs, we had value systems, we had our own forms of craftsmanship and culture that existed long before, you know, colonialism and the Spanish arrival. And I think in many ways, you can make that link between, you know, craftsmanship and the survival of a craft with resistance. And the very fact that these crafts can still continue to exist despite all these centuries of colonialism and these outside, you know, forces of capitalism and globalization, I think it says so much, and it shows the resistance. Yeah, like I think preserving a craft and sustaining it in many ways is a form of resistance on its own. So I think that's something that was just really, really interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
I guess one question I had after seeing your presentation, you know, what was specifically about cold filigree that really caught your attention?
I think it was just how meticulous the process was. I mean, at the start, I think I was like, many people here, I've never even heard of gold filigree. What is it? And it caught my eye just aesthetically. And you know, I spent 3 weeks with the artisans just watching them every day. And it was, you know, I thought I would get bored, but I didn't. It's just, it entailed a lot of patience, hard work, and discipline. And I think it's just that attention to detail that they so carefully put into their work, just trying to perfect everything. And I couldn't show you exactly like all the details, but some of like the wires that were used to create the pieces, some of them are, I don't know, half a millimeter in diameter, or even smaller than that. So I think that's amazing. And another technique that's also indigenous to the Philippines that we don't talk about a lot is granulation. And I can show you some samples later, but it's basically the tiny globules that are pieced together on our pieces. And
I thought kind of
yeah.
Sorry, we don't have much light in this room, but this is the AMAMI tambourine dangles, and you can, I'm looking to see if you can see it, but those globules. So maybe you can tell people, Christine, you're saying this is a granulation that we see.
Yeah, I think it's one of the hardest parts of the whole process, aside from preparing the wires from scratch. And honestly, I tried doing it myself. Like I tried to learn just to see, and I think I'm a patient person, but I ended up giving up after 3 minutes. It, like, my eyes started hurting. It was just, it's honestly, guys, trust me, it's difficult. So I just, the artisans ended up laughing at me, but so I just let them do their work and I just watch. But yeah, it's just amazing how they're just able to decorate a piece, even a small surface like 1 centimeter in length. It's packed with all these tiny needle wheels.
So obviously it's very difficult. We can see it in the piece, but we can't see it how you explain it. Like, do you have some theory as to why it was so undervalued to the point that they almost all gave up and were about to move abroad? Like, why was it so, why couldn't they sell that, such beautiful pieces?
I think it's a lot of factors that are just interconnected and they just affect one another. Some of these are, for example, the artisans themselves didn't realize the value of their work. I recall as I was trying their pieces one time, they were like, "You would wear that? Why?" And it's sad. A lot of them are also underpricing, thinking that no one's gonna buy my work. I need to just sell this and earn whatever I can. And so what we try to do is really tell them, no, this is an age-old tradition. This was passed on to you by your ancestors. I mean, our artisans that we work with now, some of them are on the 6th generation already. So yeah, so it's that the influx of a lot of foreign made and machine made jewelry also greatly affected this. And I think in part on the consumers, we tend to prefer we have that imported is better mentality, and that really took a toll also on why this work is undervalued.
Mm-hmm. And so you had that discussion and the artisan asked you, well, would you really wear that? So I know some of the pieces you sell are very traditional design, but also, you've started to create your own design as well, or at least adapt it to kind of modern trends. How do you balance between this idea of like old age tradition and how do you balance that with the like modernism? Yeah.
A lot of our designs are, no, actually all of our designs are rooted in traditional elements, and we try to incorporate them into more modern shapes and styles. In the past, the tambourines are known to be just necklaces that you wear around the neck, and they're around maybe 35 inches long, so they reach until your belly button. And so personally, for Danny and I, we said that if we're not gonna wear the pieces ourselves, we're not gonna sell it. Like that's the rule. So we wanted to create pieces that were more suitable for everyday wear. Like if I wanted to go to a party, I could wear it, or if I wanted just a casual hangout, I could still wear it without looking too dressed up.
Is there like, I guess I'm curious, is there kind of a line that you don't cross, like between what is a traditional design and what's something modern? Like, are there specific design criteria that you look at to make sure that it still contains the essence of the craft, but is still modern? Like, I guess, what are the lines that you've decided for yourselves?
I think right now we're trying to incorporate more like, other materials into the jewelry, and that's why we add a lot of pearls. We like the very dainty look. But in terms of design, there aren't really any restrictions. And what we try to do before designing anything is that we really try to learn and understand the context behind the designs. For example, if there are ornaments in the past that were used as death masks made of gold, and they're really pretty, but obviously out of respect, we're not gonna even try to make that or sell that on AMAMI. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just taking into account and also the religious significance of the jewelry.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yes, for sure. There's some really great questions coming into the chat. So I guess related to that question of design innovations, what are some of so Kella would like to know, what are some of the design innovations that you've implemented or made accessible to the artisans?
We usually, it's more on the material. So we've added pearls, other stones that we're working on. I can't reveal exactly what yet, but they're coming. And for the it's more of the shape. So it's all, everything already exists, and that's what we try to work. We start from there, and then we try to create new pieces.
Mhm.
And yeah, I guess for some tools we've also introduced to make the work easier are like we purchased a digital weighing scale, for example. So little things like that seem so simple but have a huge effect on the artisan.
Awesome. Cool. In terms of, Isabella actually asked a question that was on my mind, but of course, COVID is here. So during a time of a pandemic, how has, I guess, like two-part question, which is one, during a time of like COVID-19, what are some of the changes or adaptations that you have had to make with the artisans? And second with that, how has the craftsmanship needed to evolve then as a result of the current circumstances?
Well, one, I think the time it takes to create pieces, which was already long prior to COVID, it increased. The work is definitely slower because now the artisans are separated and they're able to work from the safety of their home. So that's something at least we're grateful for. At least, their safety is our priority. And logistically, we've had also experienced delays from raw materials and in terms of delivery. But one thing we've ensured for them is we've offered cash advances just to continue and try to keep them busy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's definitely challenging, I think, especially for craftsmanship during the time of COVID, because you wouldn't necessarily think of jewelry, for example, as a basic need that you need to buy. So we're still testing that, and hopefully it all works out. We're hoping for the best.
Yeah, sure. Cool.
Yeah, we didn't take that either. Like as COVID started, we didn't think jewelry would be something that really would resonate with people, but I guess we've been pleasantly surprised by the support of the community. I think people understand that for every piece they bought, it's giving money in a very direct way to the artisans in the Philippines and helps to keep them employed. And even with what we realized, especially with Zoom calls, earrings actually are more popular. So there's an impact on that side as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, someone told me they're like jewelry, earrings are actually very important during COVID because people only get on Zoom calls. They didn't get to be on. And I was like, okay, I guess. There's some really excellent questions in the chat, so I just want to let you all know we won't be able to get to all of your questions right away, but there will be an opportunity to ask your questions to Christine directly afterward. But I guess just related more, continuing to talk about like some of those obstacles, because for sure there's a lot of challenges like when it comes to any business, and this is yours and Danny's first business as well. And so I think running any business is super challenging, but I feel like running a business that's focused on social impact and social purpose, and particularly working with artisans, is a really, really big challenge. And so, oh, sorry, our cat has joined us. Hello, Remy. He wants to be part of our Zoom. Yeah, there's just so much challenge in terms of running a social enterprise. So maybe, can you just talk to us a little bit about like what some of those challenges have been in terms of like working with artisans and even getting them to trust you and developing that relationship right off, like at the beginning? What was that like, and what were some of the challenges, and what do you think helped?
I think one thing with social enterprises, especially if you're working with communities, is you really have to develop a certain level of trust. We're lucky that we call our artisans our partners, and they're more like our friends actually. And even though it's been 3 years, we're still in the process of building this trust. And we've heard from our friends who have been working for communities longer than us, that it really takes years, sometimes even a decade, for that trust to be established. So yeah, it's really, right now, it's really about being careful with what you say and just honoring your commitment. If you tell them that you're going to try your best to provide them with sustainable livelihood, you know, at this time of COVID, it's one of the best chances to prove that to them. So it's really it's really managing the relationship with your artisans. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and the more the business side, I guess as a social enterprise, you sometimes make decisions that don't make sense in a traditionally run business where profit is the main goal. For example, we ask our artisans to raise their prices. You know, we're like, raise it. And I think this is, yeah, some people be like, what, why don't you want to try to always get the lowest prices? But, you know, it's the opposite for us. Or, for example, even with the little things like our packaging, we're just committed to supporting local industries. So even if we could have ordered our boxes from like China, for example, which would cut costs in more than half, we would choose to order our boxes from the Philippines just because it will support the box makers who take time to glue and cut and paste and create more livelihood for other local businesses as well. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's challenging, but it's also, there's just that need to balance your impact and also your financial capabilities.
Yeah, I think that's something we really appreciated about AMAMI since we've known you and Danny, and like since we've been able to learn so much more about your story and the work with the artisans, is like the attention to detail is there. Like I think like AMAMI, all the gold filigree pieces are all about detail. If you can see these pieces up close, like there's this insane amount of care and yeah, just care and love that goes into each piece, and you can really, really see it. And I feel like what Jerome and I really loved about working with you and Danny is like that same amount of care and attention to detail has transferred not only into the jewelry itself, but into like so many other parts of the business, including like the jewelry boxes, and then the ways that you share the stories, you know, and I think there's a lot of respect for the artisans. Like there's also a reason that we don't share the artisans' full names, is because they asked for that privacy. And so I think it's like having those clear boundaries and having that respect is really important. Yeah, there's so many amazing questions. I want to ask all of your questions in the chat, but we will run out of time. So I just, I guess in terms of what I want to just comment on, I guess, is, you know, there's just so much in terms of what's available in Philippines. So like you said earlier, Christine, how there's this idea that like imported is better mentality that Filipinos have. And so when Cambio was initially starting, there was so many people who were kind of discouraging us from creating a business that was only focused on craftsmanship in the Philippines. And so many people told us like, that's not a good idea, you're never gonna make any money, etc. And like no one really, you know, there's not enough in Philippines, but what we realize is like there's so much that is in Philippines, and the more that Jerome and I travel there, we just see that there's so much. So when you all registered for this Kwentuhan session, one of the questions that Christine wanted to ask you all was actually what forms of Filipino craftsmanship do you want to learn more about? So we got a lot of answers. If you didn't get a chance to submit your answer when you registered, then you can drop it into the chat. But I just want to share some of the responses that we got from you. And I think it really shows like how diverse the craftsmanship is in the Philippines, because there is so much that Jerome and I were like, I didn't even know about this, right? So some of the things that people shared is like, they'd love to learn more about accessories made of wood, about pottery, weaving and textiles, like sustainable, anything for colonial contacting techniques, embroidery, like piña embroidery, gold filigree, of course, which is the perfect session to be registered for if you want to learn about gold filigree, fabric and hand lettering, traditional clothing, including barong, bamboo crafting, indigenous art. There's even sculptures and architecture, tattoos, upcycled materials, and then learning about the socioeconomic impact of crafts and how they translate to modern day. Blacksmithing from Ilocos down to Mindanao. Pastillas wrappers.
This one was a surprise for me. I had to Google it, pastillas wrappers. But yeah, there's an art to it. There's a quite interesting.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. So that's really cool. And yeah, and then the musical bamboo instruments from north to the south. There's just so much that's here, and it's really like quite amazing, just like how much diversity there is.
So I guess following on that, Christine, like based on your own experience learning about gold filigree, like what would be your advice for people that want to learn more about any type of Filipino artistry, like, or even want to do work to help preserve it? Like, what would be your advice?
I think, well, just really, it's honestly just doing a lot of research. Just take time to learn more about an art form and go beyond the aesthetics. You know, how is it made? What are some patterns, or what do the patterns and symbols mean to the culture that whom it belongs to? And I guess talk to as many people as you can, reach out to experts. I think now that everyone is mostly online now, it's the perfect opportunity to just, you know, message them on Instagram, and, you know, they're bound to reply. And I think it's also being patient, because you're not gonna learn about a craft just on one go. We're still learning ourselves about gold making and gold filigree and granulation. So yeah, and also I guess it's also to just do it as early as possible. Do it now if possible, because with craftsmanship, a lot of the people practicing, if there are still any, they're old and you don't know how much time they have left. So no, it's really true. I mean, it's really a race against time. So just gather as much information as you can and just talk to as many people and do research.
Mm-hmm. And when when you're talking of preserving a craft, because you said you have to do it as soon as possible, because a lot of those traditions are among people from the older generations. So how would you measure that? How would you measure that a craft is now preserved, or how do you measure your success in that way?
For us, it's about we measure our success and preservation based on the number of artisans who have learned the ropes of the craft with a baseline figure and up to today. And regardless of whether it's a horizontal or vertical transfer of skills, it's, for us, as long as another person is able to learn even just parts of the craft, that's already like a huge step for us, especially because usually for crafts, it takes years and sometimes one's whole life just trying to learn the entire process and mastering it. And for us, it's aside from the artisans, we also look at the consumers, you know, how many people know about this craft or have heard about it. And so that's why we get really excited when we get a new follower, even if they don't buy anything, but the fact that they may have read our post or have now know what gold filigree or tambourine is, that's already like a plus point for us. So for us, it's really the number of artisans who know how to do the craft and who know of the craft.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's something amazing. I'm like hearing also about, you know, how AMAMI went from one artisan working with mats and then not ending off, but now having 18 artisans. And I think many of those are actually from the younger generation as well, is really quite incredible and quite amazing. There's actually a blog post that Nikki wrote a couple weeks back all about AMAMI, and just talking about some of the work that they've been able to do in terms of actually, motivating the artisans to stay in Philippines instead of searching for employment abroad. Some people had questions in the chat about, like the other artisans who worked with Matt and whether they returned to the craft. And I think, there's actually some of those stories in there as well. And so Nikki wrote a beautiful piece about it on the blog. So we can add the link to the chat. But thank you so much for sharing that, Christine. one thing I just want to, before we go into the questions with the audience, just want to relate this back to how like preserving a craft is really about, like you said, creating tangible ways for people to use these pieces in their day-to-day, and that one of the most powerful things that we can do as a community to sustain a craft is to actually purchase it and to actually use it in their day-to-day lives. Like you and Danny were saying, like you wanted to wear pieces from AMAMI, or you wanted to create pieces that you would actually wear in your day-to-day. And I think that's something that is so powerful, is like when it's something that we can see as being relevant in our daily lives, then we want to wear it, then we want to purchase it, then we want to create livelihood, and that creates employment for these artisans who are practicing their craft. And our customers then become the storytellers, like you were saying. So that's really, it goes back to our advocacy of wear your heritage, which is that idea of like the power of having something that is not only designed and handcrafted in the Philippines, but that has the story that you can really feel connected to, that connects you to that person who made it and to their stories as well. So I think there's just like this really important and power to that. Yeah, so these are some of the stories that our community has shared. And if you have your own story, we'd love to hear them as well. And Nikki also just dropped the link to the AMAMI blog post. We hope that you will check it out, because it's a really, really good article. And so with that, it is now time for just a little, to change up the rhythm a little bit.
Yeah, so before we get into we'll have a full-on Q&A with the audience, and also a little break before that. But for the Kwentuhan series, we decided to partner with our friends with Cafe Coffee, Philippine Coffee. They are a Canadian social enterprise that brings Filipino coffee from the Philippines into the North American market, and they're really doing an amazing job. They work with indigenous farmers in Benguet, and as well in Davao and in Mindanao. And their coffee first, we've ordered it a few times over here, is really, really excellent. It's direct to farmer, indigenous grown, and it's actually quite, even though when you go to Manila now, there's a lot of places you can kind of find Filipino coffee, but when you're on this side of the ocean, it can get pretty hard. So it's really amazing to have a business that cares so much about the farmers, the coffee farmers. So to have them here is really amazing. So we decided to partner with them, and we wanted to do a little giveaway. Yay! So they've agreed to send one bag of coffee
to someone who is here in our attendees today. So hopefully you all have your beverages. I know it's late for us on the East Coast, so thanks for hanging around. If you're drinking coffee, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, so the winner for the Cafe Coffee is Erin, who mentioned before she was from Silver Spring, NB.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yay. Congratulations. So we'll take maybe a minute break, and then we will come back here and head to the Q&A with Christine.
Yeah, so you can fill up on your beverages, go to the bathroom, and then, yeah, for just like 2 minutes.
Sounds good.
Okay. We're gonna get started in 1 minute. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Hopefully you are all, had a nice little pause. Excellent. We are so excited to get into the questions from our audience. There were some really amazing ones that came up during the conversation. So really excited to give you all the chance to talk to Christine. I think what we'll do is just go through some of them. For the sake of time, we kind of chose ones that, I guess that we felt we didn't really get to touch upon yet. Do you want to ask the first one?
Yeah. So I guess a couple questions on the craftsmanship itself. So how long on average does it take to create a piece?
Usually it's at least 3 days. Some pieces, especially our necklaces, take at least a month to make. So our bracelets, for example, can take 1 to 2 weeks. Some earrings also take a week to make. So it really depends on how intricate a piece is. And we even have one bead, our AMAMI bead, which is what we're named after. It's this one. This is the AMAMI bead.
And that's the pineta.
Yes, this is the pineta, and as you can see. But yeah, so that AMAMI bead alone, I think it takes 2 to 3 days, depending on the size, just for this one bead.
What is it that takes so long? Like, is it, because I know you mentioned the granulation aspect, which is the globules. I guess what is the aspect that takes the longest when it comes to intricacy? Like, there's the globules and the granulation. Are there other details that take longer than others?
It's the preparation also of the wires to reach a certain dimension of it. So the filigree side, that's one aspect, and granulation, which is more on the decorating side, is another. So it's not just simply gluing it. You still have to sift it, to cut it, to fire it until it becomes the desired size. And even those globules have a specific size for them.
Yeah.
That's very, very interesting. So in terms of what are the challenge in terms of transferring this tradition across generations? So I guess what's the challenge in teaching the younger folks about this art?
I think there are a lot of challenges. One would be how the art itself is difficult. It takes years, and it's not for everyone. It takes a lot of hard work and discipline, a lot of time. Some of the elders would say that the youth today, they're just so focused on video games. A lot of the younger artisans, I mean, the kids of the artisans, they're also starting to move into other career paths as professionals. They don't see the craft as something that is an alternative option for them. But hopefully we're trying to change that. And it's also the mindset of the whole jewelry. Like one of the youngest artisans we work with at the start, she told us that I'm never gonna wear this, but now she's actually part of the team that does the decorating of our beads. So yeah, that's the challenge of it. And hopefully we try to show the younger generations that this can be a profitable career path to take in case they're interested. It's right there. They just have to invest their time also and commitment to learning the craft.
Were there, someone asked, were there other artisans that were peers with Matt who you first met that were like no longer practicing? And then did any of them come back as a result of AMAMI's work and advocacy?
Yes, actually, I think there are, I don't have the exact numbers, but there are a couple of them who have stopped or who have moved on already to other professions and who have came back and started helping out again. But there are also others who maybe help with certain parts that they specialize in, but still continue to, or who have moved on to other forms of jewelry that's more modern, such as those with diamonds or what they perceive that the market wants, which is more modern jewelry. Yeah, but hopefully they're able to convince also those around them to take it up again. And yeah, there are still other artisans who know the skill, but they're also aging already, so they're retired. So the most you can do is interview them, but they're not going to help out with the manufacturing itself.
Yeah, it's in the blog post that I talked about. It's a really good blog post. So I'm going to bring it up again, but there is a story in there about Matt's mother, who maybe, Christine, you could just tell people briefly about that story, because I think it's just so powerful.
Oh yeah, so as I mentioned, a lot of the artisans in the past already moved abroad in search of greener pastures. And on one of our catch-up calls with our artisans during the holidays, they said that their mother was able to come back to the Philippines to visit for a short trip, and they were really excited to show their work. And she was also very proud because she said that during her time, the demand for this jewelry wasn't as great as it is, or it's starting to become again today. So, and then she also had some input because we work closely with our artisans to try to figure out what's the meaning behind the designs also. And there's this particular piece that we thought was influenced by a leaf, but their mother told us that it was actually influenced by a traditional indigenous musical instrument also. And, we were just so fascinated by that. And she has expressed plans of coming home, hopefully by this year. And with that, we're really hoping that we're able to tap into her knowledge of traditional designs and be able to revive even more of those.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
Yeah. One question, someone had a question specifically about the material. Where do you source the raw materials?
Right now we work with silver. So some people think it's gold, but it's silver. And everything is sourced locally. And I'll be honest, it's a bit hard to trace exactly the source of silver because the network is just spread out. But based on our interviews, a lot of the silver suppliers melt old metals from old watches and coins, and they recycle it and purify it. So it just goes around. But in the past, this kind of jewelry was made in gold. And since Ilocos is to the east, it's the Cordillera region, which is very rich in mineral deposits. So in the past, I think until the 70s, the plateros would get directly from the Cordilleran tribes. So it also shows that close connection between the Cordillera tribes and the Ilocanos.
Perfect. So someone shared, I believe it was Isabella. So Isabella says, Christine, as I was reading about your community involvement with various organizations, I saw your passionate commitment to women's rights, a topic that resonates with me and with a lot of Filipinx in the diaspora. How do you incorporate your passion for and commitment to women's rights within AMAMI?
Ooh, I love this question. Well, one of it is we try to celebrate as many women as we can, and you see that in the names of our pieces. They're named after very inspiring women in history that are often not talked about or forgotten. One of them is our Leona Criolla. I don't have a sample right now, but her name is Leona Sorrentino, and she was one of the first women in literature, and she was way ahead of her time and a pillar of feminism, and we just wanted to celebrate her. So in little things like that, we try to insert the advocacies we believe in. And on the artisan side, also, we now work with around 7 women, and some of whom we were able to empower in the sense that before they used to rely on their husbands to send income from abroad, and now that we're able to provide livelihood for them, they're now able to support themselves. And she's just, one of them was really proud and just shared that now she's able to shop and buy whatever she wants without having to ask her husband for permission. So yeah, those are just some ways.
Amazing. Yeah, there's so many amazing questions. I'm just scrolling through some of them. I think the most recent one, so this is from Mystica Alexandra. So how do you, Christine, help the artisans have a sustainable living while balancing your own? Because it is definitely a labor of love that keeps you going. So what does that balance look like? Yeah.
Yeah, it's honestly really tough because, I mean, when you're in social enterprise, you just have to have a problem you care about so deeply. Otherwise, I think that if your goal is to make money, it's so much easier to do it in other places. But what we try to do, especially with our pricing, is just making sure that it's fair for everybody. You know, like we try not to take like a lot. Our artisans get most of the profits, and you know, as rightfully so. And for us, as long as what we're earning is sustainable for the business, we're not going to try to extort people, because I mean, in reality, we can be selling these pieces like ×3 or ×5 the price, which is what some others are doing. So it's really, for us, it's about making our pieces accessible also to as many people, because we want people to wear it, and by wearing it, we're able to revive this form of jewelry.
Mm-hmm.
Just to give some background as well, Christine. So I know, because we start working with you at the very beginning of AMAMI, so I guess for you it was a night hustle at first. You were doing your master's, and you and Danny still working. Now you're able to spend more time on AMAMI, but it took a lot of nights, I guess, of hard labor before you got to that point where at least one person can work on the business kind of full time. But yeah, you were hustling for a long time.
Yeah, and we were working at a time. My partner Danny's actually working her other job right now. She has another full-time job. So I'm the one doing it full-time now. But before, we were both balancing different jobs, just trying to manage AMAMI on top of it. And you know, we would have meetings at maybe 1 in the morning, and you know, we would sleep for maybe 3 or 4 hours a day. So it's really trying to hustle and just squeeze in as much productive time as possible.
Yeah. It doesn't sound too different actually from what you currently do.
I'm sure you can relate also.
I just want to read out a comment that we got from Abby. So she wrote, this isn't a question, but just wanted to commend AMAMI on their commitment to preserving this beautiful piece of Philippine heritage and supporting local artisans with a sustainable livelihood. I have a necklace and I'm now so much prouder to wear it. So thank you.
Thank you, Abby.
It's awesome.
I guess
Lance.
A question from Lance. I guess moving forward, what's next? What are your future plans? I know you don't want to share everything. You have some secret materials coming, but what's next for AMAMI?
Well, to be vague, we're looking forward to welcoming even more artisans in our little AMAMI family. Yeah, more details coming soon, but we're really excited, and yeah, just can't wait to announce it.
The scoop.
Yeah, exciting. Yeah, I guess my question, so I don't know if there's more questions coming, but I guess my question to you is like have any of your plans changed as a result of COVID? Like is there a really big pivot that you had to make as in response to the things that have been going on?
I think the part where we're affected the most is in sales. And that's why we're thankful for you guys at Cambio and all of those who are advocates, because we just noticed the bayanihan spirit of Filipinos from around the world trying to chip in to help in whatever way possible. And just that just means so much to us. Every purchase really does make a difference, not just for us, but also for the other local brands you support. But yeah, we're lucky that our enterprise is set up on social media at the very start, so we didn't have to transition so much for that. But it's also for us trying to be more sensitive also, because we just at the start we were uncomfortable posting about jewelry when all the everywhere was the news was about COVID. So yeah, we're still trying to maneuver our way around it also.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for sure we can definitely relate to that, of course. And I think something that has helped really when COVID hit is, Jerome and I were having conversations, and we were asking ourselves, like, people don't really need jewelry right now. Like, no one really needs jewelry, especially at a time like this. But, we dug really deep, and it was an opportunity for us to also like analyze our why as Cambio. Like, people can buy jewelry anywhere, but why do they buy jewelry from us? And what is it that we offer in terms of value and in terms of community and story that really resonates with people? And I think, COVID was actually an opportunity for us to really dig deep into that why and into that mission. And so that's when we did focus more on that storytelling aspect, on creating this greater sense of community and really using our platform as a way to, really sustain livelihood. And so, we were really honored to be able to support AMAMI, and we hope to be able to do even more. And it's like you said, the bayanihan spirit was really alive, and we really felt it, because it was really quite amazing, the response that we've had these last few months from our customers and from our advocates. Like, it's really quite inspiring. Yeah. So thank you to all of you, and especially, for being here tonight on a Wednesday evening, or for those of you in Philippines on a Wednesday morning as well. Sorry, what day is it today? Thursday. Yeah. So I think those seem to be most of the questions. So thank you, Christine, for your time tonight. And thank you to all of you for joining us and being here and sharing the space with us. We're really, truly honored to be able to share these stories, and that you are all here sharing space with us. So maraming salamat to all of you. Please, if you are not following us yet and have not connected with us yet on Instagram, please do. We're at Cambio_co. We're also at our sister company, which is all focused on Filipino weddings. So once the weddings start back up, please do check out Cinta_co. And then you can also connect with Christine and Danny directly at amami.ph on their Instagram. And Nikki, I believe, has also linked to a few links. Actually, she's linked to the links directly for you in the chat, so please do check that out. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you also for having us.
Yeah.
And thank you everyone for being such great listeners and for your curiosity. I mean, it's just so nice. Like, I don't know, like just seeing how many people are interested in learning more about this craft.
Yeah, we have the best community and we have the best customers. I always say that, and it's true. Okay. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care, and more power to you all. Bye.